What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast, Strong, Well Fed, and Outspoken. My name is Rusty, aka Coach Frizzle, or the Miss Frizzle of Fitness.
And I am out here without a cool title or
We
magic
need
school
to work
bus.
on
I'm
this.
Coach Nel.
But it take like 20 seconds to introduce my name, my three names, and you're like, "Sup, I'm Nell."
I have a 3-letter name.
That's awesome. That's amazing. This episode, we are going to kind of pick up on something that's been trending in especially the social media world. Maybe you guys have seen it, but there's a lot of posts going around right now in regards to fitness myths, fitness shit that basically just people are not falling for. Whether you are just somebody who loves going to the gym and working out, or you're a coach, or whatever category you fall in, just like fitness stuff, you're not falling for. I've been loving it. Have you seen any like really, really good ones?
Yeah, I've seen some really fantastic ones, but then I've also seen some where I'm like,
Yeah, for sure.
Where are we getting that information from?
Yeah, 100%.
But
I've
I think
seen
that's part of why we're going to talk about it today, right? Because
totally.
that's exactly what happens with a lot of trends. And we see this in the fitness industry time and time and time again. It's like, oh, we're doing this or we're doing this. And we're like, where is that backed? Like,
Yeah.
how are we getting that information?
Yeah, 100%. I've seen a few of them that are from the perspective of like people just trying to like sell their products. So I'm like, this is missing the mark.
Mhm, mhm.
This entire post is the stuff I'm not falling for.
Yeah, exactly.
But we thought it would be fun to take it from the perspective of like coaches, actually. So, I think sometimes when you're in the fitness industry, because obviously we're in the industry as consumers as well, and people who love to work out, but you look at things differently also when you have kind of like coaches glasses
That's
on.
very true.
And so there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around that even from a coach watching, reading, listening to other coaches, I'm like, I am not falling for that.
For sure. There's
Yeah.
definitely some words that are an immediate red flag for me when it
Yeah.
comes to people in the coaching space.
Yeah.
Um, even if it's something that people are very much qualified in, a lot of people are not, and they say that they are.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things as well. I think that like this could be a whole other topic, but like we're just not staying in our lane anymore in the fitness industry as coaches, I find. And I think I mean, hey, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel it as well. I think there's a sense of pressure when you notice like, oh, people are talking a lot about, let's say, hormones. Because really in the
Mhm.
last few years, I feel like everybody's
It's
talking about
skyrocketed.
hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as a result, therefore, everybody feels they need to be talking about hormones. And it's like, stay in your lane, right? Just because everybody's talking about something doesn't mean you should be talking about something.
True. And it's a default almost. Like I'm going through some health stuff myself,
Yep.
and like it's like they expect me to say, "Oh, this is the problem." I'm
Yeah.
like, that's actually I don't think is the problem.
Yeah, totally. Figuring that out, kind of deciphering. Yeah. I mean, for you right now, where you're at, but just staying in your lane, like, and being okay with letting other people talk about things, even if you don't know about them and not having an opinion. Like, as coaches, we don't need to know everything. You
True.
can sit back and just listen unless you are going to educate yourself. Like, I actually, just as of this morning, uh, and I sent this out to my group chat with my clients, not as a brag, but just so that they know. Like, I literally hired a new mentor this morning, the most money I've ever spent. It's kind of scary. It took me a couple days to click okay. But literally the most money I've ever spent on a mentor so that I can actually learn way more than I do already know about hormones, gut health, digestion, so many of those things. Because yeah, I don't want to talk about it if I don't know about it. So
No, and I will often refer out for things like that because one of my specialties is pre and postnatal.
yep.
It kind of goes into like pelvic floor health.
Yes.
My scope is not that, right? So I will refer out or educate myself in those things because that's it. We have a scope of practice, right?
Yeah, and that's actually a great one right there of stuff you probably don't fall for. There's a lot of coaches that are great with pre and postnatal, but being pre and postnatal does not necessarily mean that you know everything about being pre and postnatal, including pelvic health or like, you know, pelvic. I see so many videos. This was probably our first one, but I see so many videos of people being like, here's what to do to strengthen your pelvic floor. And don't get me wrong, there's exercises that we can talk about as a coach, but then they
Yes.
try and dive deeper into like, and it's like, no, this is a whole other field of like medicine
The
now, maybe.
physical therapy. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I literally had one of my coaches, I do a lot of mobility work and
Yes.
things like that, right? Strengthening from a
And we will
rehab
absolutely
perspective.
improve those things with the exercises we do give you.
Exactly. But we are also not physiotherapists, and there's a difference. So like one of my clients the other day, she's actually unfortunately really injured herself, and she asked me for workouts, and I said to her, listen, no, this is not workouts. Sorry. She asked me for specific rehab exercises. And I said to her, I will always guide you through mobility
Mhm.
and strengthening from a rehab perspective. But at this point, you need to see a physio. Like that's outside of my scope. So yeah, that's one thing that
Yeah, I think this is really like one thing we're not falling for is people working outside of their scope of practices,
yeah.
outside of their knowledge base.
Yeah, honestly, whenever I watch a video of somebody, like unless I'm already following them and I know them, if I see a new video pop up and it's somebody talking about hormones, you know, pelvic floor, serious like medical recoveries or rehabs, I automatically, and they're giving out advice on what to do, I automatically, to be honest, go on the defense and I'm like, I'm not falling for this until I go into their profile and actually do a little bit of research. And if it seems right, it is hard to know because people can absolutely present themselves in a different way. But, you know, you can get a pretty good idea from somebody's profile if they are literally like a medical doctor or a physiotherapist or things like that. And if they're not, chances are I'm not actually falling for it.
No, gut health is another one
Yeah.
because everybody has like a supplement that they're trying to push.
Yep.
And oh, do this and it'll heal your gut. Well, what's the problem with your gut?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are we
Right? It's
trying
not
to
a
work on?
catch-all. Yes.
Yes. Honestly, because there's a very big difference, right? Like for some people, things like glutamine can be fantastic. They just need a little bit of support, a little bit of gut lining, support literally. But for other people, if we're talking about uh words escaping me now, you know, if we're talking about SIBO or anything like that, H. pylori, you know, like glutamine is not going to
No, it's
be
not going to be the answer.
your
Exactly.
your cure all there at all. So yes, any type of like specialty, I'm instantly not falling for unless I see like some serious backed up credentials here.
Yeah.
Another one though, so then like sticking into our own scopes here, okay, when we're talking about strength and nutrition, a big one for me that I actually, from a programming perspective, do not fall for is the idea that all of your compound exercises have to be first. And I think we talked about this a little bit in a Q&A
We did. Yeah.
over, a couple weeks ago.
Or maybe in the building your own workout episode. I can't remember which one it
Maybe.
was, but we definitely talked about this.
Yeah. So just to dive in a little bit more here, you know, I think it's a concept. Don't get me wrong, it's very logical and applicable in certain cases, but at the same time, remember there is no one size fits all answer. So a lot of people, I see a lot of programs, whether from coaches that I mentor or programs that new clients will send to me so that I can see what they were previously doing.
Yes.
A lot of people still are in this mentality of like all your big movements come first.
And I will still program
First.
like that sometimes.
Sometimes. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, me
Right?
too. Yep. Especially also depending on the phase. But
Yes.
for many people, they will actually benefit so much by doing other exercises first, like isometric exercises before some of those bigger movements.
Yeah.
For example, doing like a seated hamstring curl before doing something like a Romanian deadlift, right? Where we know a Romanian deadlift is glute and hamstring dominant, right? It is a loaded stretch exercise. You know what feels really good before you do any type of stretch exercise? And again, a lot of your big compound movements are stretch exercises,
They really
right?
are. Yeah.
Squats, deadlifts, leg presses, they're all stretch exercises. Something that feels really good before you do a stretch exercise is actually doing a contraction or shortening based exercise. So doing a seated hamstring curl where we're really able to get the hamstrings into peak contraction, and then going into something like an RDL feels especially beneficial. People often feel like they can't feel.
I was gonna
There-
just say that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very, very important to have that connection then. And now you've already started to make that happen.
Yes, exactly. That mind muscle connection. I think RDLs, even for me sometimes, right? Like it can be hard to engage with those muscles. You're like, am I feeling my hamstrings? I don't actually know. Because again, when we're talking about the lengthening part of a movement as well, that's not where the most mind muscle connection comes from. It tends to come from when we have squeezed the shit out of
Yes,
that
the
muscle.
strength. Yeah, I'm hypermobile. So when I
Yeah.
do things like a deadlift, if I'm not actively engaging and making sure that those muscles are ready to rock, I can, fold in half and come up and my hamstrings are fine.
Yeah, honestly. So then you're like, I'm supposed to be strengthening them, but I'm not feeling them. Are they
Right.
actually working? So again, driving that mind muscle connection first by doing some type of isometric exercise, then going into your big exercises, which again tend to be more stretch based or lengthening based. All of a sudden, you've now created that mind muscle connection
Mhm.
first to your hamstrings, and you're like, wow, this is what it feels like to have weight on them in a lengthened position. And that, honestly, you don't always need to feel an exercise in order to have an effective workout. Absolutely not. But if you also have a good idea of what a muscle should be feeling like at certain times during certain exercises, you are going to feel a lot more confident with that exercise, and chances are progressive overload it way sooner, way faster.
And something I'm not falling for as a coach is that you have to feel a certain exercise in only one way. Because we
Yes.
see this all the time in
Great
an
one.
RDL. Oh,
Mhm.
I felt it in my low back. I'm never doing an RDL again. Good. Your low back should be engaged and
Yeah.
working. It's part
Yes.
of the movement, right?
Yes, absolutely. Preach. No, that's such a good one. We do tend to think that like as soon as you feel another muscle group work that isn't
Oh,
like the
yeah, can't do
dominant.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And especially with lower back, people are really sensitive, right? They're like, I
Yes.
feel my lower back in a squat, in a deadlift, in a
Good. You should
row.
have a strong back.
Yeah, your lower back is working in all of these things.
Or even like one that always gets me when I'm doing like deadlifts, especially,
Mhm.
my lats are always working
They're always
because you have to
firing.
hold the bar,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I have had a lot of upper body, I'm going to say trauma, I think is an appropriate word because we've literally sewed things back on.
That's
But
awesome.
I feel it really intensely there. And
Yep.
if I believed that it was only a hamstring or a glute exercise, I wouldn't do them. And I need to be doing them. So
Yeah.
I'm not falling for that as a coach.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great one. Another one, even doing something like bicep curls, people be like, I feel it in the front of my shoulder. Good, you
Good.
should be.
Yes.
You're
Or your
in
triceps are starting to activate. Good. You're getting tired.
yes,
They're
yes.
assisting.
There are again, your body works right like in a system. Everything is linked, everything is connected together. You're not just going to be firing like your biceps during a bicep curl. Yes, that is the muscle that we are targeting, but you've got other stabilizing muscles there. We've got other joints involved and things like that. So this is also why not always doing compound movements as the first exercise in your program can be beneficial.
Mhm.
Again, it can also be beneficial. So, like right now, if you're following along with the workouts that I have posted on the app, which are the weekly workouts that you can literally just follow along from anywhere you are. Everyone does the same workouts. It's a nice community feel there, nice and cheap and cost effective and very effective. I design fresh workouts there every single week, and they all follow like a rhythm and flow. Well, right now we are switching some of the workout up that we've been doing in this recent phase. RDLs have been actually like our second last exercise for many, many weeks. Then we brought them up to about the halfway point. Now they're our second exercise that we're doing. So we actually were doing RDLs from a point in the workout where you were pretty fatigued already and doing a big movement. Now we've brought them up to the beginning. And guess what? This past week, like everybody on the team was like, holy shit, I just PR'd
Smashed
like
a PR.
yeah,
Absolutely.
the best my RDLs have ever been, ever, because we've trained them later when you were more fatigued, but also when you had more mind muscle connection going. And now we've brought them up, and all of a sudden your strength is out of this world. So, different ways that you can program. But yeah, that's a big one for me. Compound movements do not always need to be first,
Mhm.
especially when we're talking about limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. Along that line too, something that I don't necessarily agree with is like these perfectly prescribed rep ranges, right?
Mm,
We've talked about rep ranges before with like higher, middle, kind of low for strength, hypertrophy, endurance.
yep.
But I think what a lot of coaches and a lot of people get wrong is they're selling themselves short because
Yep.
they don't necessarily they've never pushed to failure.
Yep.
And so they get, 12, I'm done. Perfect. I'm in a hypertrophy phase or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And so along the same lines, depending on where you're putting things in workouts, it's going to be a different impact. It's the same thing here.
Yep.
Those are a general suggestion in my world.
Yeah.
That I use those as like I want you to pick a weight that this is going to be tough for. But when you're there, keep going.
Yeah.
If you don't hit 10, and I have given you 10 to 12, it's still working.
So yeah, keep going and then bump it next time. Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually picking up off of the rep range idea, one thing that I really believe in, or I guess I don't fall for, is also this idea that, like, again, picking up off the last one, that like certain exercises always fall within certain rep ranges.
Yes.
So, right, like squats, a lot of people are like, well, these are your big movements, so you should only be doing 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. No. You know what? Why don't you throw weight on the bar and do 20 reps? You want to feel what death feels like? Like, we need to be able to take these big compound movements, absolutely, and push them to like max strength. Honestly, unless you're like a power lifter, I really don't believe that there's a reason to be training for a 1 rep max. But still keeping it within like the, let's say, 4 to 5 rep range, 3 to 5 rep range at times. Absolutely. Those are big, strong movements. Load them up, go through phases where you are loading them up, 3 to 5, 6 to 8. But then you should also be training your squat in a 12 to 15 rep range, in a 15 to 20 at times rep range. And then likewise, right, with lateral raises. Like, lateral raises are an exercise that will more so benefit from higher rep ranges, to be completely honest with you guys. And just from a safety perspective, right, this is a movement that, unless you have really good form and you have built up shoulder strength, like hitting 6 reps on a lateral raise at heavier weight is not really ideal for a lot of people. But again, with proper programming, you can build up to be able to take those lateral raises where maybe you are doing 15, 20, 25 reps normally, and now you are only hitting 8 to 10. We need to have like, all the rep ranges exist for a reason. They all play off of one another, and every single exercise, for the most part, 90% of them should utilize every single rep range at some point or another. So really start to pay attention to this. When you're working out, are you only ever doing lateral raises for 15 to 20 reps? Are you only ever doing leg extensions for 6 to 8 reps or 8 to 10 reps? Because you need to start switching that up.
Absolutely. And this, actually, you have one on your list that kind of goes into this as well, and that's rest time.
Yes. Yeah. Same idea. We love to talk in like absolutes, right? Only put your compound movements first. Only do this within certain rep ranges. Only, make sure that you're resting. You must be resting for 2 to 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes or whatever it is. And for me, like, the rest time one is really interesting because I find people get so obsessed with it. It actually takes them out of their workout and connecting with their body because they're so focused on the like correct time that they should be resting. Realistically, like, we can look at this from a general point of view. You guys don't need to be setting a timer. Like, unless you're honestly somebody who always loses track of time and you're like, oh shit, it's been over 5 minutes. Because you're always
because now I'm answering Instagram messages for you guys or something.
Honestly, that's my thing. I really try to limit my work during the gym now, because otherwise I'll start answering messages and I'm like, oh shit, it's been like 6 minutes. So unless you get overly distracted, like, you really shouldn't need to set a clock.
Your rest is to allow your nervous system to be like, okay, we can do this again and go hard.
Yep. You want to talk about building better connection to your body? When you're resting, actually pay attention to, how am I feeling right now? Like, I'm still really tired. I'm still really winded. I would not be able to give my next set my all if I jumped in right now. You want to find that middle ground between letting your nervous system come down, especially if you're doing like unilateral exercises where it's like one arm or leg at a time. You definitely need to be resting before switching to the other side. But the idea here is you are resting enough, just enough, so that you're able to say, I am ready to attack my next set and give it my all. You're not resting so much that you're like, I kind of actually feel like I've come down too much. You know what I mean? Have you ever
like you cooled off almost?
Yeah.
Like, wow, I've lost my interest. Ready to go home and eat a snack.
Yeah, no, honestly, where I'm like not locked. I almost feel like I need to do another warm-up set now, you don't want to be resting that long, but you also want to be resting enough so that you can literally say, I'm ready to attack my next set and I could give it 100% effort. When we kind of set these like rest times, I find it becomes more about the time and less about actually connecting with your workout.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, as a general rule of thumb, again, those bigger movements, you're probably going to need more of a rest time than you will on something like a lateral raise. If you're doing a really hard and heavy set of 4 to 6 reps, you're probably going to need a little bit more of a rest time. Then again, if you're doing like a leg extension for 12 to 15, right? We want to think about it from a logical perspective, but again, it is all about how you feel and connecting with yourself.
Yeah, and I use those rest times very much as like a learning piece of a workout, right? If you're like, "Wow, I didn't need to take my 90-second rest." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, how long did you need to take?" "Well, I just had about 10 seconds." I'm like, "Well,
Yeah,
then you're
right
not
now,
putting
well,
enough effort in."
yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Or you're maybe caught up, like, if you came from a background of, like, doing a class where you
Yes.
don't really rest ever, or, like, doing, like, endless hit where there's, like, not really many rest times, then, yeah, you maybe need a timer to, like, help remind you that, "Oh, no, it hasn't actually been 60
Yes.
seconds yet." That can be beneficial too, but, yeah, otherwise, not so much, baby.
Mhm. Now, we're talking about timers here, which would it imply that you have some kind of device that you're tracking your workout on.
Mhm.
Something that I'm not falling for is that only tracked workouts count.
Yeah.
Now, track your workouts
It's a
in
big
like
one.
in what weights you're using, what movements you're doing so you can progressively overload and get better.
Yeah.
But if you're stopping your workout halfway through because my heart rate stopped tracking on my Apple Watch, get out.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
get
your
over it.
your
Yeah.
workouts count whether your Apple Watch thinks it does or not.
Yes, honestly,
And
honestly.
regardless of what that number says at the end of that workout, that
Yeah.
does not determine whether it was a good workout or not.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my goodness, 100%. We give way too much of our power and our feelings of like it's kind of like the toxic social media mentality as well, right?
Yes.
Like I remember back in the day, really I still have to be careful of this, but like you could pour your heart and soul into like let's say a post, right? And it
Mhm.
doesn't do well and you're just like, "Ugh, that sucks." And it does suck,
Everybody hates
absolutely.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you put up something and you're like, wow, look at how I think everyone can relate to this, right? You're like, look at how many likes I got. Because this is the mentality, unfortunately, social media has created in our culture. But these devices are doing that for you guys too. You look at them and you're like, wow, it says I burned like 1,200 calories today. I feel so good about my workout. And then the other day you're like, oh man, I only burned 600 calories. It's like, piss off. This
Yeah,
doesn't
like my watch
please
said I
me.
burned 400 calories. You can barely walk the next day. Those are
Yeah.
two very different things, right?
Yes. Yeah. And not to
So I
mention,
encourage you, like, try a workout without tracking it. Just be
yep.
so in the moment,
Yep.
feel it in your body.
Yep. A lot of you guys are talking about wanting a better relationship with yourself, but yet you're letting these electronic devices actually determine how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the workout you did, rather than actually listening to like, yeah, I do really feel fatigued. I did really push harder. You're disconnecting. You're letting your rest times define you. You're letting all these things that don't actually matter influence the communication you have between
Yeah.
you and your body. Zone in, bitch. Listen to your body, and you will be really surprised how that will also transfer over into other aspects of your life. For all of a sudden, you will start to notice, like, you know what, I could really go for a nap, or you know what, I do really need to stay in tonight, because
Yeah.
now you're listening to yourself and not the distractions of everything else.
And let's talk about it. It's a distraction-free workout now.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Um, yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah,
Another
so
a big
go
one
ahead.
for me is uh the aspect of redundancy. Okay. A lot
Okay.
of people talk about, I see this honestly, and I see, like, I'm not going to name names, but I see coaches that I do genuinely follow and I do, you know, totally respect. I think they're really, really intelligent. They know what they're doing. And that's the thing. Remember, guys, like you can follow people and not agree with every single thing that they say before
100%.
unfollowing them, right? Like being a well thought individual and being sure of yourself means you should be able to follow people who think differently than you and be able
And
to be
I
like,
think that's a
huh,
great thing
yeah,
because maybe and I've changed my mind many times,
yep.
coming
Just let
up
people
in this
learn.
industry, starting at 0 and
Yeah.
now, being I like to think a voice of reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know
Totally.
what I mean? You can educate yourself and maybe you don't even you need to educate yourself until
Yep.
there's something else, right?
Absolutely. A lot of the times, yeah, by listening, reading, interacting, relating to people who think differently than you do, maybe you will learn something. And it's also okay to realize, like, no, I still disagree with this, but continue to follow that person. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yes, a big one that I see is a lot of people will say, like, if you're already doing a squat, you don't need, let's say you're doing a barbell back squat, you don't need to do a dumbbell goblet squat or a
Oh,
cable squat or things like that. I do not agree with this mentality at all. Or let's say rows, right? People be like, you've already done one row. You know, let's say you did a cable row. You don't need to do a dumbbell incline row. You don't need to do, a barbell row, whatever it is. I don't agree with this mentality for many different reasons. One, it just, again, is way too generalized. It's a one size fits all answer. It doesn't take into account what the person's working on, what their weak spots are. It also just doesn't take into account the individuality of certain exercises.
yes. And
You
the
know?
and the way you feel when you do an exercise.
Yep.
I can tell you right now, I don't love a barbell squat. It's
Yep.
not a great feeling in my body,
Long
but
legged
I'll do them,
legs.
right? But you give me a goblet squat or something like a cyclist or a cannonball squat, I am living my best life. I feel so badass.
Yep.
And
Yep.
suddenly I'm still doing a squat movement, but like it's almost like a redemption in that workout. I just suffered through back squats and now I'm like, look at how strong I am, look at amazing, whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a mental piece too.
Oh, yeah.
I would happily go in and do an entire squat based workout.
Yeah, 100%. It is absolutely, there's something huge to be said for the way we connect with our exercises. Because again, as we just talked about, right, listening to your body, understanding your movement patterns, your biomechanics, what movements fit well for you. That doesn't mean, certain movements you'll just never do. But yeah, like Nell said, she still barbell back squats, but it's not a movement that she usually tends to feel like the most lit up from,
No, and
right?
how is my barbell back squat going to get better if
Mhm.
I don't do other squats?
Yeah,
Right? Like, let's
absolutely.
just talk about foot placement or
Yep.
how your knee tracks or how much weight you can get comfortable moving in a
Yep.
more suitable position.
Yep. Yep. There's a ton of different factors here. When we look at, people will often actually say to me, like, how did you build your back? I'm very proud of my back. And I tell them I did endless rows and pull downs. I did
Yep.
not just do like one of each in a back day workout, right? There's a very big difference between doing a cable row versus doing a dumbbell incline row versus doing a barbell, pinned row. Um, the angle that we set our position our body up to versus the angle of the weight that we're trying to move versus how gravity is pulling that weight is going to be very, very different. So in something, right, like a barbell back squat, it's going to feel very different. First of all, the weight is on your spine. You are controlling the weight as you move down, and gravity, right? So when we look at where the weight is sitting on your back, we look at how gravity is pulling that weight. It is literally pulling it down, and then you are pressing up and against gravity,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of stability going on here. Again, you're carrying the weight on your back, on your spine in a traditional barbell back squat. That's going to feel very different versus if we were to do a cable goblet style front squat, right? Where now, first of all, you have more tension throughout the movement because not only are we pressing up and away from the cable, but you're also controlling the resistance of the cable as it tries to pull down. So it's more even tension throughout the entire range of motion. You're now also set up in a position where you are, yes, working against gravity, but you're also, again, working against the cable. When we look at, again, like Nell said before, foot placement, when we look at where the weight is being held here, we're holding it in a goblet style fashion in front of the body versus being on our spine. All of these things are going to contribute really differently to where or how the movement executes and how you're going to feel it. Again, with like a
Mhm.
barbell back squat, depending on foot placement, we just take a traditional foot placement. It's still going to be mostly quad based, but you're still going to be hitting glutes and hamstrings. If we go to that cable style goblet front squat, where now let's say we've put our heels up on a plate, you're also going to be largely targeting quads. Not really much hamstrings or glutes happening there at all. So all of these things make the exercises, although they both have squat in their name, they're still going to make them different. Not to mention, let's say that you're treating your barbell back squat in a leg workout like your really big compound movement. You're working up to a heavy set of 3 to 5 reps, 4 to 6 reps. Well, now you throw cable goblet squats in. I don't think you should do one right after the other necessarily. But let's say you go from like a back squat and then you go and do something like a single leg press or a regular leg press or whatever it might be, or some walking lunges. And then you end your workout with another squat variation and you do this cable style goblet squat. Well, your earlier squat, like we said, was very heavy, 4 to 6 reps. Now maybe you're burning the quads out. They're already fatigued as well. So now maybe you're doing 14 to 17 reps. It's going to be a very different stimulus than your barbell back squat. So this idea that like doing more than one type of exercise is redundant is ridiculous, to be honest.
It's true. And this is where I really like to the individual person factors in. Limb length is a big factor in these kinds of things, right? If I do a barbell back squat, I am very hinged forward. If I do a cable goblet squat, I'm really upright. And so it feels very different. I'm getting a lot of different benefits from it.
Yeah.
Honestly, than if I had only done one.
Yep. Absolutely. On a kind of nutritional standpoint, just from a coach's perspective, and we'll probably wrap up with this one, is because this was mostly like workout, gym, training related.
Very much ended up being that.
Yeah. But the big one for me that I always no longer fall for, and to be honest, if I was to meet myself from 6 years ago, I wouldn't fall for this from myself, because this is, when we learn and we grow,
it's true.
Our thought processes change. But the idea that all calories are created equal. To be honest, when I see coaches talking about this, and again, I do follow an If It Fits Your Macros lifestyle. I followed it for years. A lot of our clients follow it. We both follow it, to be honest. But when I see coaches talking so adamantly about it doesn't matter what you eat, all calories are the same, that's a bit of a red flag for me. Because in my mind, again, one, they're either just doing it for clickbait, right? They're doing it because they know it'll enrage some people and it'll also massively agree with others, or they're doing it because they genuinely don't understand that context of food is everything.
True. Yeah, because on my list, I have cheat day. Like, I'm not falling for people saying take a cheat day, because you shouldn't be cheating on anyone or anything, especially yourself. Your diet, which is what you put in your body, should include the foods you enjoy. It should be something you don't have to feel like you're cheating on. And that's why this kind of becomes something people default to. Well, if it fits in my macros. But that's not what it's about either.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a big, I need you guys to understand, there is a big difference between 100 calories of salmon versus 100 calories of cereal. And I love cereal, right? That's another thing I don't fall for, when other coaches are like, cereal is poison and it's bad for you.
My general rule is, if it is actual poison, don't eat it. If it's gone bad, or if you're allergic to it, that's really the only 3 things that are off the table for me.
Right? You don't like it. It's spoiled. It will literally make you sick. It doesn't digest well. It doesn't get your religious or cultural beliefs. Like, these are the only foods that you actually need to stay away from.
Right.
But at the same time, we can understand that we can eat everything. You're allowed to eat everything. There is no good and bad food. You can understand that, while also understanding that there is a difference in food quality.
Yes, if somebody puts morale on food, I'm immediately out.
No, it's really true, because you don't have a relationship with food. You have a relationship with yourself, and the relationship you have with yourself dictates the relationship that you then have with food. So the morality that people put on food is nothing to do with the food and everything to do with themselves. Whether that's, decisions they've chose to make in adult life, or it's stemming from like childhood trauma, because we do all have it. The point is, food holds no morality. But again, that doesn't change the fact that there is a difference between 100 calories of animal protein versus 100 calories. To be honest, even keeping it in the same context, there's a difference between 100 calories of animal protein and 100 calories of collagen protein.
Yeah, or even like a chicken protein versus a beef. Like, they're not the same.
Calories are not created equal. At the end of the day, a calorie is a calorie, in the sense that every single calorie is a unit of measurement for heat. But that doesn't change the fact that, right? Think about it like this. You ever go to a country that's like so humid, right? like 1 degree or 100 degrees, let's say 75 degrees in Vegas feels very different from 75 degrees in Canada.
Yes.
Okay.
And as Canadians, we love to say, oh, but it's a dry cold.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go with originally, but I was like, I don't know if everyone will get that. So if you haven't traveled, that example won't make sense. But if you have to anywhere in the world, it absolutely will.
Yeah. If you walk outside and it's very hot, but dry, it's kind of like
Yeah.
it punches you in the face. You walk outside where it's hot and humid.
Yeah.
It's like getting slapped in the face with bologna.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like one is like someone's taking a hairdryer to your face, and the other one is like
yeah, no, that literally that actually makes so much sense. It's like slimy. Yes. It's a very different type of heat, but that doesn't change the fact that
it's
at
still
the end
hot.
of the day, a degree is a degree of heat, but the context of it can be very different. And your food is very different. And this is where it's really important that we understand the difference between calories.
Yes.
Because it's going to it will honestly, I think people are afraid to understand the difference between calories because they think that then they will have to have some type of morality attached. But to be honest, the best thing that I ever did for myself, and I stand by this, the best thing I do for my clients is teach them the difference between foods, because now this is where your greater understanding of nutrition will actually come from, where your confidence around food will come from, and where your empowerment around food will come from.
Because now you can eat to feel good.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat to feel guilt or not guilt.
Yep, exactly. And I think for a lot of people, they get caught up in the mentality of, well, I just don't know. I genuinely don't know. And that can feel very overwhelming. I've been there. We've both been there. Mm-hmm. And so then you just continue down the path of what you've always been doing because it's a familiarity that you feel safe with because it's known to you. But when we start to actually get to know food from a different context and we have this awareness and we have this education, that's when the empowerment comes from. Because now all of a sudden you're like, yes, I understand that there's a difference between 100 calories of cereal and 100 calories of egg whites. So what am I going to do? I'm going to combine the two and make like a sick ass meal where now I'm getting the benefits of what cereal provides for me because I know where that's beneficial. And I'm getting the benefits of what egg whites or eggs or salmon or chicken provide for me. And I know how that benefits me and where that fits as well. Mm-hmm. And that's really where it comes from. Everything really, I would say at the end of this podcast episode comes from understanding that context is everything. That's pretty much what we've talked about with each of these examples, right?
True.
Context
and this is why we always take that individual approach in our coaching, right? It's not this one size fits all. It never is going to be.
Yeah, never. Context with your entire life, guys. Like, honestly, take it out of a fitness perspective. Think about it. When you spend money, when you go out for a drink, when you go for a meal, how you feel around certain people, environment, social, everything. Context is everything for your entire life. So it should be no different in the gym, your workouts, your nutrition, period, baby.
Yep.
Thanks for coming to church, guys. This episode's dropping on a Sunday.
Mic drop.
Yeah. But I think, did you have anything else, Nel, that you wanted to add in off your list?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything today. I mean, we could get weird and silly and just like individual maybe sometime down the road, but I think, that's got her covered.
Yeah. No, for sure. You guys know how we can be. We can always go off topic, and we had longer lists, but we also had a bit of a time crunch here today. So
yeah, we're like make it coach specific. That was kind of our. Maybe we'll get a little individual next time if you guys want to hear that.
Yeah. Someone ask it for our next Q&A, and we'll throw it in there.
Yeah.
But as always, guys, if you guys have any questions, thoughts, feedback, something was funny, relatable, something hit home for you, please feel free to share this with a friend or on any of your social medias and tag us in it so that we can see it. And we can show you guys out. And if you haven't yet, please go ahead and drop us a 5-star review. It helps us out huge.
Absolutely. But if they are going to tag us, where can they find you?
Oh yeah, good call. You guys can find me on every social media platform at coach.frizzle.
And I am also on the socials at coach.alana.nel.
Beauty. Otherwise, guys, we will see you next week. We hope you have a fantastic week. And as always, we will talk to you guys soon.
Yeah. And put us in the comments. Like, what are you guys not falling for?
Oh yeah. Great point. Actually.
I want to know what you guys are not falling for in the fitness space.
Yeah.
Or maybe just in life in general.
Yeah, literally. Let us know below. We would love to read it. Otherwise, guys, have a beautiful day. We will see you next week, cousins.
Bye.